Nice to see you. Thank you for coming.
Hey, Ryan, no problem. Thanks for having me. Hi, guys.
So this might come as a little bit of surprise to you, but the general public has had a lot of interest in the succession planning of the company that you work for.
I'd say us too, right?
What does that mean to the Fox Sports division that Lachlan has been solidified as the unquestioned successor at this point?
Well, I think obviously it was tremendous news for all of us that work at Fox last week. I think it just means business as usual now, right? Under the leadership of Lachlan, which we're all, really excited about after the news last week.
So some other big news in the past year, Fox did a big investment in IndyCar. Fox kind of has a history of making investments. They did Fox Bet, which has turned into this option to buy a share of Flutter, the UFL, which was previously the USFL, NYRA bets. Can you walk me through the logic in investing in IndyCar and what that means for it going forward?
Yeah, sure. I think generally under the leadership of Lachlan and Rupert, it's been a very entrepreneurial company, right? Especially after the Disney transaction, having a lot of greenfield and kind of a lot of firepower and cash to be able to deploy, not really in a private equity way, like having to put money to work, but finding partners and opportunities where we think we can strategically add value. And so, the latest one was IndyCar. I believe that there is a tremendous amount of growth in IndyCar. The blueprint is there from the 80s and 90s. We know how popular it can be. And I think with the power of broadcast television, the consistency of schedule on Fox, and then us putting our oomph behind it, along with the ownership of Roger Penske for the last 5 years and what he's done with Indy, it's really the right partnership at the right time, and we think that together there's a lot of value to be created with us and other partners. And then, like you say, adding that to the portfolio of the FanDuel option, Naira Bets, Cosm, which we're on the board of. It's a great portfolio. Red Seat Ventures, which we just bought to get into the podcasting space. So it's a good portfolio kind of outside of sports rights that we think can have tremendous value for our shareholders.
The auto racing's kind of interesting to me because I've written about this. Like the NASCAR ratings are way better than anybody realizes. And, everyone gushes about Formula One and Netflix, Drive to Survive. NASCAR just crushes F1 and viewership. And, you've got this synergy where you've got IndyCar and NASCAR. So does it ever drive you crazy that people don't realize how broadly popular these events are?
Yeah, I mean, look, it's well known to the advertising industry and, in the business that NASCAR is the top of the heap for domestic motorsports here today and does outrate Formula One in this country. I think that some people always, talk about where those ratings come from and the demographic, but the reality is, a great statistic is that NASCAR fans have more disposable income than Formula One fans in this country because of where they live, right, and the cost of living in those counties and those markets. So it's something that you're kind of constant. We believe that we are the marketing arm of all of our partners, and we're constantly out there marketing NASCAR and now IndyCar. And we just put out the IndyCar schedule this morning for the first time in a long time. We're going to be doing a crossover weekend with NASCAR in Phoenix. So we'll have an IndyCar race on Saturday, NASCAR race on Sunday. So I think there's a lot of synergy between the two as well.
Nice. So the World Cup right now, it seems like it's kind of forever away. But if you look back to this past New Year, that's when the World Cup is to now. So it's coming. You're going to have over 100 games, 11 different cities, 3 countries. The logistics of that just have to be mind-boggling. People don't think about, you got to get all these production trucks and all of the cameramen and stuff like that. How long do you prepare for all of the logistics of an event like this?
As soon as the last World Cup is over, you start on the next one. And you're right, it's 268 days away. We have a huge clock in the office that counts down to it. This country has no idea what's going to hit it next summer. It really hasn't started to ramp up just yet and get the nation's attention. But combined with America 250, we have games in Philadelphia on July 4th next year. The momentum is going to start to build probably right after the first of the year with fans and in their local markets figuring out what it is. It'll be the biggest logistical undertaking that Fox has ever done. Obviously, the biggest tournament that FIFA has ever done with 48 teams across 3 countries. And we're going to have, we're going to have 2 mobile sets at the 2 best games, each day. We'll have a huge setup in Los Angeles. It's going to be big. And quite honestly, we'll know a lot more December 4th once the draw comes out and we know where the teams are going to be playing in the group stage. It's 27 straight days of soccer, right, in the very beginning with no days off.
Open wide for some soccer.
Right? Exactly. And so it's really kind of 2 tournaments. The group stage is kind of this sprint that gets you off and running, and then you start to have days off, and really kind of the second half of the tournament kicks off. But we couldn't be more excited. It's really an honor to be able to bring the largest sporting event in the world and kind of show off America to the world.
We've been hearing for my whole lifetime, soccer's coming, and
it's always the next big sport. It's always the next big sport.
You hear it so much, you start to roll your eyes. But I'll say, at my kids' school, I live in Chicago, I see more kids wearing soccer player jerseys than I see Cubs and Bears. And so I don't know if they're watching it on linear TV or whatever, but it really does seem like school-age kids are more into soccer way more than a generation ago.
Yeah, we're really kind of just in the second generation of soccer fans. If you think back to the New York Cosmos and really kind of that 18 to 20-year-old that was a fan of the Cosmos, we're now kind of in the first time where a father or a grandpa can be watching with their son or son. So you think about how long soccer has been around in the rest of the world. If you think about it, we're really only kind of in that second and a half generation in America. And so as fathers, sons, mothers, daughters turn into grandmas and grandpas, right? It's going to be exponential really from here on out. And we think that 26, both for international soccer and probably for our domestic league, MLS, is going to be that huge catalyst that you're not starting from scratch. I will say, I know Greg stayed around. I'm not going to throw my wife under the bus. I packed this myself. Kara called me, and she's pretty upset at Greg, and I don't even own dress socks, so these are my own socks.
Well, if I had known, I could say I forgot dress socks and not have to wear them.
But you don't own a tie. I can pretty much. Do you?
I own a tie, but I did have to buy this suit fresh because I'm bigger than the last time I wore a suit. Pivoting to Barstool, right after you guys did that deal, Dave Portnoy talked about how you flew to see him at his modest cabin in Nantucket. That's a joke. It's the most expensive house in Nantucket ever. But you did this deal with Barstool, and it's expansive. It's Big Noon. It's Wake Up Barstool on FS1. What is your long-term goal for this partnership?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question. Look, Barstool is about the voice of the fan, right? And especially when it comes to Big Noon Kickoff and what we do in the college football, the college space, there's really no better voice of the fan than Barstool. And we thought that bringing that in to the Big Noon Kickoff show, and it's, look, the shows the first couple of weeks, I think, have been tremendous. We're incorporating more than Dave, into it. We think it's a really good start to figuring out how we can be more of a voice of the fan, because college sports is all about rivalries and all about fandoms, and there are no better rivalries than in college sports. And we think that Barstool is the perfect partner for us. And then bringing that also to FS1 for 2 hours being programmed early in the morning with Wake Up Barstool with, every day being a different cast. Greg's been on it with John Gruden. It's a really good start to, I think, a good combination. And we are going to be doing some more digital things together, in the future as well.
So I'm not sure if you were aware of this, but Dave had some pre-existing grudges with some of your partners, like the NFL and Ohio State. As you're navigating this process of doing a deal with Barstool, how do you navigate the sensitivity to some of these partners who maybe you would have preferred that you didn't do this?
Yeah, I wasn't aware of that. You want to give...
Okay, well...
Look, as I said before, even though we pay large rights fees and we are, again, investment partners, equity partners with the Big Ten and the Big Ten Network, we do view ourselves as kind of the unpaid marketing arm for all of our partners. So, we use our best judgment for what we think can make their sports more popular. And in the past, you've had to navigate some of the decisions that we made. We've put in the past some baseball talent on that, baseball wasn't, exactly happy with, but we thought it was good for the show and everybody was grown-ups and they kind of trust us. I remember when we had Jimmy Kimmel on, right? A lot of teams would get upset at the comedy bits that we did. Hopefully over time we can find, that trust and that medium, in there, because we're not out to poke anybody. We're here to try to make every one of their businesses bigger.
This is kind of a general question about Barstool and kind of the state of the industry, but you mentioned the digital component of the deal. I feel like we're nearing an inflection point where, digital viewership, I don't think for, NFL games, it's going to supersede linear TV ratings. But you look at a show like Wake Up Barstool on FS1, and ESPN has tried this with the Pat McAfee show as well, where you aggregate all of these digital clips and highlights on all of these different platforms, and you're adding up to really substantial scale. Do you think that that's something that Fox and Barstool can do together?
Yeah, I think the bigger point there is I believe there's a myth between people thinking about digital and linear TV. It's either live or it's not. Streaming and linear is not really the delineation because at least our consumption, even on linear, we're very close to half of our consumption on live television being through what you would call streaming, right? Whether it's through YouTube TV, DirecTV Stream, Comcast X1, the idea that something is streaming or not is not really how we think about it. It's either, are we making a live product, which is consumed live, whether it's on your phone, through cellular, whether it's Wi-Fi, whether it's through traditional cable or satellite, or is it on demand? And I think what we're finding is that what you're saying is that the type of on-demand content people are really starting to monetize and figure out, whether it's through YouTube or our investment in Red Seat Ventures, which is great at producing and monetizing on-demand podcast content. So for us, we're all about live. That is the main point of Fox between sports and news. And then you start to really, with your personalities, partnerships with Barstool, figure out that on-demand world in the sports space, which, is, sports is growing, whether it's live or on-demand, but I think on-demand, at least we're starting to figure out how to make that a material part of our business.
So Fox was sitting on the sidelines for a while in the direct-to-consumer game as all of your competitors were, scratching tooth and nail, trying to build up these subscription services, but you finally entered with Fox One. Do you think that in some weird ways you guys won the streaming wars by waiting?
Well, I'm not sure anybody's won it just yet. I think we're still in pretty early days, and there's a lot of things to figure out, whether it's consolidation or what does the future of the bundle look like versus direct to consumer. I'm pretty proud of the fact that Lachlan decided to not enter the direct-to-consumer world as early as some people. We were able to kind of not sit around. We were able to kind of look at the playing field and see what was working and what wasn't. We still believe that the bundle or some form of bundle is the best thing for sports fans, because you pay one price in one UI and you can get everything. Sports fans have been taken advantage of, I think, quite a bit, especially in the soccer world, right? Like soccer fans being young, tech savvy, and having disposable income. We went from having one place where you watched global soccer on one channel to all of a sudden having to subscribe to like 13 different streaming services. So the bundle is still the best value for sports fans. I think that, the addition of some of these on-demand services, really starting with the power of Netflix, pulled people away from the bundle for on-demand, and the big bundle hasn't really kept up with just having kind of a live product for people that are sports fans and news fans. And that's where kind of the a la carte started coming in. And after seeing what the playing field was for a while, we think right now is the best time for Fox One to launch.
Speaking of the bundle, broadcast TV is really having a resurgence, really over the last decade, and you guys are well positioned for that with the Fox network. What do you think it is that has really fortified this medium, which, it's going backwards in technology in many ways? There was a time where there was 3 networks and they were all broadcast, and then Fox came along in the 90s, kind of post-cable, 80s. But I guess, what do you think it says that this medium has been so resilient?
Yeah, I think, we have this theory that simple wins. Accessing the broadcast TV channels is still simpler than accessing any other service. So whether you want to pay for TV, it's usually one of the first things that comes up in your guide. It has an ability to kind of market itself through localism. And, you do get to a point in your life where local matters. Being attached to your local community matters, and nobody does that better than your local TV stations. So simple wins. I think the fact that the NFL and college football is majority on broadcast television, it gives you that platform to continue to promote, other things. And quite honestly, we go back to, the question that you asked just before. It's still just kind of naggingly hard to go into one app, watch one thing, there's a commercial break, then you want to pop out to another app. Broadcast TV being in all of the bundles just kind of makes it simpler for people to access. It's the thing that they know in their local community to go to.
I want to air my grievance. This isn't a question, but I wish that sports on broadcast TV did not immediately lead into the local news where it's like, okay, here's your sports event. Here's someone who got killed in your town. I just wish it wasn't like that. Sorry.
What town do you live in, right? That's happening all the time.
It's everywhere. If it leads, it leads. That's what they say, right? So I am contractually obligated to now ask Tom Brady questions.
Greg, do you want to come back up? That'd be great.
So it's his second, or it's his second year now. So how do you think that he's improved, and where do you think he can still get better?
Well, I'm clearly not going to answer that question. What I would say is, and we heard this before Tom even started at Fox, he was the greatest player of all time. He's an even better human being and teammate, and that has truly been the case. I would say, the things behind the scenes that, the vast majority of people don't get to see is how much he's integrated kind of into helping us drive the business of Fox. So, in his first year, he was thrown into doing a Super Bowl. You look at the Super Bowl business that he drove for us is something that, behind the scenes is a great part of having Tom. Clearly we hired him for his ability to translate what he sees in his eyes to fans to create more new fans of the game. Just like John Madden tried to do, just like Greg tries to do. We're always trying to get people to be bigger and bigger fans so that they watch more games longer. That's good for this country, is to have more football fans. And so I think as Greg said, if you're not always trying to get better at something, like when you're at the most elite level, you're totally used to being coached that your foot is 3 inches off for that cut, or your arm is at 2 degrees of a wrong angle. Those are the types of things that analysts do all the time, is go back and watch their tape and figure out, no matter who you are, how you're going to get better and how you're going to be more comfortable, right? Being comfortable in a booth and with your partner is the most important thing. And just like Tom talks about with quarterbacks, like quarterbacks as rookies shouldn't be they're not developed enough to be thrown into the fire. It takes 3-4 years of playing behind somebody and having the luxury of playing behind Brett Favre for 3 years. That comfortability comes after a lot of reps in the seat.
So last night they show him on ESPN. He's got his headset on in the Raiders booth. Next week he's calling a Bears game, and then the week after that the Raiders play the Bears. Do you sympathize with like the Bears fan who's like, conflict of interest?
Well, again, I'm not going to answer that one either. Good question, but not going to answer that. Look, we going into this, there was a set of rules in year one, with the NFL. Different set of rules, in year two, and we're kind of constantly talking about, like Greg said, different teams approach prep with networks differently, and I think if there's a conversation that needs to be had after last night, we'll have it. Absolutely.
Is this flag football thing that was announced yesterday? We want to break some news here. Is this a precursor to him trying to play in the Olympics in 2028?
Again, lots of questions, not a lot of answers. I would say that we're excited about what Tom and I think Michael Rubin have been on the phones working to get that announcement out yesterday, having Turkey Al-Sheikh be our host in Riyadh, and welcoming this flag football tournament in March next year. It's really exciting. We all know the popularity of flag football and the effort that the NFL is putting behind it, and the fact that it'll be in the Olympics in 28. So I think everybody's just kind of rallying around, again, finding all of these angles into football, and flag is one of them for both youth, for both women, and kind of shining a light on all of the different aspects of football, and flag is one of them. And this event is going to be absolutely incredible on March 21st.
We have a little over a minute left. What didn't I ask that I should have asked about?
Let's see. What didn't you ask that you should have? We talked about World Cup. We talked about Indy. Look, I think that you talk about the power of broadcast television, and how things are kind of going back to the future. The UFC deal, right? Combination of broadcast and streaming. The NFL being majority on broadcast. We just put a ton of effort into this past weekend's game in Kansas City. We took the entire crew out to Kansas City. We had kind of a college,
That was what I was supposed to ask about. I'm hearing that the preliminaries and
I'm getting
the rating.
Okay. I'm getting there. And so we just got, the numbers in for that game. It's probably going to set records. It was 32.7 million for that game in Kansas City on Sunday, which...
That's a lot of millions.
It's a lot of millions. I think it'll be our biggest doubleheader ever. It probably will be the biggest doubleheader early in the season for any network. And, just like YouTube, we will continue to revise those numbers up until people won't let us revise them up anymore.
Thank you, everyone. Give a round of applause for Eric Shanks. We're going to have a coffee break, and then I'll be back up here with Luis Silberwasser in a few minutes. Thank you.